Devlin, Untamed.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Platform.
Welcome to the show, and it is a show, Martin Devlin, Auckland War, iOS, It's Only Sport. The name of this podcast, the name of the radio show that we do between 1 and 4. Every afternoon on the Platform, the only independent live radio sports program in this country. 3 hours worth of silly old, dumb old, who cares sport? Who cares? We do. Who doesn't care? Well, what is wrong with you? How can you possibly have a life without sport? You need to get some. Sport, that is. Sport is life. Life is nothing without sport. I'd rather have sport than that. It's true, I would. You see, that is, it's great. It's good. But sport transcends that. It transcends life. It is life. It takes us to exalted places and heights. It lets us express our emotions that we couldn't possibly go anywhere near in real life without feeling like people would ask us to get one. That is a life. What are we talking about today? We're talking about the tackle height in rugby league being lowered. Yeah, from the shoulder to the armpit, and what it means for the game on an ongoing basis. Mark Watson, the ATM podcast, episode 65. Because why? Because Super Rugby is going to get fan-centric. That is exactly right. For the first time, well, since whenever, fan engagement and fan-centric. The new Super Rugby board, creating new energies, exciting new technologies, and fascinating marketing opportunities. I don't know whether it's all just hot air or whatever, but I suppose good on rugby for finally recognising that the comp is dying and it needs an injection and it needs it fast. As well as that, Graeme Agars on John Rahm. Him switching to LIV Golf, and what does it mean for the PGA Tour next year? And on the podcast, we welcomed Terry McFlynn, Director of Football for the brand new A-League franchise. We begin the show as we always do. Tablets in hand, I say gather my flock. It is time for a sermon. Lowering the tackle height in league, what does it eventually mean for the whole sport? Let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
Rugby League. The biggest change in the way rugby league is played is about to hit the sport. A new UK trial of tackle height is to be introduced over there, dropping the line from top of the shoulder to the armpit. No, it's not as radical as anything rugby union has introduced over the years, which was to lower the tackle height first from the shoulder to the chest, then to the nipple, and now the base of the sternum. But at least it's a start. League is still languishing in dinosaur land when it comes to acknowledging the brain injury damage to players, especially the terrible and serious health consequences of playing the game on past generations of players. It's real. It's evidential. It's a scandalous, dark secret that was always going to have to be acknowledged and addressed, and finally it is. Dennis Betts, he of former Warriors and Wigan fame, played in the inaugural few seasons for the Warriors here from 95 to 97. He said this week, "My dream is for players to finish playing and remember that they actually played." Well, that to me says everything. CTE, dementia, brain injuries. You only have to listen to Andy Raymond Unfiltered in his podcasts to know and understand the residual damage done to so many of our past playing greats who now, 20 years after they hung their boots up, can't recall even lacing them up. It's a tragedy, and it's doubly that it's never been officially medically acknowledged. But now with a class action looming over the sport in the UK, a la what 350-plus rugby players have launched, the sport is finally doing something about this, because it has to. Because there will not be a sport called rugby league played in the world in the next 25 years if they don't. And that's the truth. You have to accept that. Both administrations, the UK and the NRL, are going to lose these court cases. They're going to be forced to compensate billions of dollars and pounds to past players, and that ends the game. That kills the game. Rugby has recognised it. The NFL have been paying off their damaged players for years to shut them up and hush them up. Rugby league, though, bring back the biff, put on report. Warrior Hargraves deliberately elbowing guys in the face and getting 3 or 4 games as a ban. It's got to stop, or else it will be stopped. The tackle height is about to become lower and then even lower. Because if it doesn't, the game called rugby league as we know and love it will be over.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The Platform.
how childish the whole bloody thing is. And you accuse sport of being childish, whoever does. 1:14 time, Lachlan. Headlines.
Well, I think first off, I think if they were to get a peek into your house on a Sunday morning or a Monday afternoon when you're watching one of Manchester United or the Commanders,
absolutely, you know.
the word childish is probably one of the first few that's thrown out there.
I've got a puppy now, mate. I'm distracted now. Sport.
Yeah, what's your nickname for you? Obviously it's called Presley or the Prez.
The Prez.
What do you call puppy?
Nushy or Nookums.
Yeah, what else?
Or Bunny.
Bunny, that's the one. Every day when we finish up, I get to go home and see Bunny.
I get home to see Bunny. Actually visited us here in the studio for a few minutes today, running around and doing what he does. All right, we're going to be talking about this rugby league and lowering the tackle height first. We're going to go both to the UK and Australia to talk about that. And then up the goddamn Villa. Aston Villa are the success story of the Premier League at the moment, almost at the halfway stage. Go on, you Villa. 3rd place. So we're going to go to a right rabid Villa fan who works for TalkSport out of England, and his name is Rupert Bell. So all of this in the first hour. What do we got, though?
I'll start off with some live sport. The White Ferns are playing in the first of 3 one-day internationals against Pakistan. Martin, you love the live win probabilities.
I do.
New Zealand have a 97% chance of winning. 97.
But they haven't even batted yet.
No, we're batting first. We're through just under 31 overs gone, so we've got one more ball to go in the 31st over. 189 for 1. Susie Bates is 84. She's unbeaten. Amelia Curran 11. Now, by the way, at the top of our news just before, you would have heard the score in this match being read out. And there was a quick update during that score saying, there's actually a wicket.
A wicket.
It makes you think, I'm listening to this live, aren't I?
No.
Live sport, live. No. That bulletin was pre-recorded by about 10 minutes, and the score was indeed wrong because it was outdated.
Well, you used to work in the same news.
I used to do that exact job.
Just say minutes ago. Say
a short time ago, moments ago.
Well, what they're faking. This is the whole point. They're faking the fact that these news bulletins that they put out to all the satellite stations and products like ours are live. They're not. They pre-record these before the top of the hour.
So, easy way to work around it. Don't put live sport in. Or say some moments ago, something along those lines.
191 for 1. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to also follow live NFL this afternoon. The NBA will kick off again as well.
Who plays in the NFL today?
A couple of games, Monday Night Football, 2 games as a matter of fact.
Oh, one of them was a cracker.
Giants are hosting Packers, Dolphins, Titans.
Dolphins, okay.
Well, not really. Cracker. No.
Titans aren't very good, are they?
The Giants
Maybe
are crap.
Packers,
There you go.
Never mind. Maybe it's not a cracking game. All right, more news. Canterbury Rugby head coach of former Hautapu player Marty Burke will step into an assistant coaching role with the Chiefs for the Super Rugby season, next year's Super Rugby campaign, that is. Waikato Rugby and Chiefs speedster Solomon Alaimalo, I guess he's former Waikato Rugby and Chiefs speedster, has officially joined the West Tigers in the NRL, making the transition from Super Rugby to the NRL. All Blacks winger Caleb Clark is training with the South Sydney Rabbitohs. He will do so in January to prepare for the 2024 rugby season. He'll rejoin the Blues in Feb, I believe. That's quite interesting. An All Black choosing to train with the NRL guys.
Yeah, Geordie Barrett did it last year, didn't he? He went to the Melbourne Storm. Well, just to change his scenery. Yeah.
Well, you get to be in Australia for the summer.
Caleb needs to he needs to revitalise a bit. He burst onto the scene a few years ago, and he was the answer, wasn't he? And then at the World Cup, look, in the end, when
he barely played.
Yeah, well, when Mark Talea got suspended or rested or what he sat down for, it was Leicester who came in, who was leaving New Zealand rugby anyway. Caleb should have been commanding that spot, but he just can't.
His form hasn't been that great.
No, it hasn't been that 2 years. So good luck to you, Caleb. Really like you as a dude.
He's a good player. Big, bruising, talented. Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo will meet in Saudi Arabia in a football match.
Oh, here we go.
Inter Miami confirmed today that they will take part in the Riyadh Season Cup.
Oh, God. Is that as important as the NBA in-season tournament, is it?
More important.
More important than that.
More important,
oh, yeah,
of course. This Riyadh Season Cup is something that was announced by Saudi officials on November 21st. Inter Miami said the reports at the time were inaccurate, however, they're true. Inter Miami will play Al Hilal on January 29 and Al Nassr, which is Ronaldo's team on February the 1st. I love how it says that this is kind of like a LIV Golf sort of thing. Inter Miami denied reports they were going to go over and play in Saudi Arabia as part of this FA Cup style tournament, but indeed they are. Who is the big boss at Inter Miami, Martin? DB. And he was also in Qatar last year for the World Cup and was more or less an ambassador for the tournament, wasn't he?
Yes.
He loves the blood money, David Beckham.
Oh, leave him out, mate. He's all right. You watched the Beckham Netflix doco and you liked
what
him.
did you say about Stephen Gerrard when he went and started coaching over in Saudi Arabia?
I said he took the cash because he's a scouse thieving git, and he'd take your car stereo while he's sitting in the passenger seat, mate.
And Biggs?
Biggs has got a big heart. What Biggs is trying to do is Biggs is trying to change the
What
world
about Roy
from
Keane
within.
when he went over and said, "Oh, it's appalling that the tournament's here," but he was sitting there
He
in
didn't
Qatar.
know he was in Qatar
No, he
at the
didn't.
time, mate.
He thought he was in the Bahamas. It's like, it's awfully dry here. Where's all the beaches? Oh, okay. Right. All top flight football matches in Greece will be played without fans in the stadiums for the next 2 months. And the latest crackdown on supporter violence following a sport-related riot last week in Greece that left a police officer with life-threatening injuries. He's in a coma, this police officer, I believe. Blake, actually, I probably should have said this one earlier, but I've just come across it in my ordering of the bulletins, but I don't know, suspect. Black Caps great Chris Cairns is making progress following a heart attack in 2021, though the Herald would lead you to believe it was a life-threatening heart attack. Now, aren't all heart attacks
By
life-threatening?
definition, I would think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, Cairns shared a video on social media walking with crutches into a pub. It wasn't that long ago that he actually started using crutches or was able to start using them again. He has been in a wheelchair since suffering a spinal stroke. That followed catastrophic heart failure due to an aortic dissection, which is like a tear in your heart, essentially.
God, what does all this mean? Is he going to be okay?
Well, he then received a bowel cancer diagnosis just months later.
God's
This was
sake.
2 months ago. 2 years ago,
I
excuse
like
me.
Cairns. He's all right.
But he's, geez, when that happens, do you just sit there and go, I give up?
No, well, I think you could. You could. But obviously he's a fighter, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, especially when you get that cancer diagnosis.
Yeah, I mean, let's park all that Chris Cairns court case stuff. I just used to love watching him play. God, he was good. You always kind of felt when he played for New Zealand that you had a chance. He was Johnson out when he played. Could bat and bowl. And really took it to the Aussies. Him and Nashi playing against the Aussies.
Devlin,
That is a disgusting act.
the platform.
League tackle height. Well, it's got to change, doesn't it? It's got to come down. Why? Because there's a class action pending in the UK, a la the 350 plus rugby players who have done the same. This is going to go to court, protecting the players, protecting their health, making sure that at the end of their careers that they still have a life and can have a good and a healthy life. Joining us out of the UK to explain this reduction from the shoulder height to the armpit, Gary Carter, who writes for The Sun. Just explain what this change is in the tackle height for a start.
The tackle height change is essentially, normally, anything below the neck is legal, whereas for 2025 in the professional game, it's anything below the armpit. Next year, 2024, they're bringing it into the age grades, the under 18s and the under 20s and things like that. So, but essentially, it's going to give the professionals a year to get used to it, rather than change it now and have like 80 odd penalties a game. The professionals are going to have a year to get used to it.
Is this because of what's happening in rugby? Is that why the change is being initiated, because of those class action lawsuits which haven't appeared in league yet?
We asked, there is a class action lawsuit hanging over rugby league over here at the moment. Now, we asked whether it was a response to that. They said no, because the class action actually hasn't been served yet. We all know it's happening, but the actual papers haven't been served. So officially, the Rugby Football League here don't know what they're answering to. But the move is essentially because of the threat of legal action and the threat of legal action going forward.
Because obviously this is why rugby has made all of its changes, and it feels a lot like, as far as rugby league goes, that it's dragging the chain and it's reacted rather slow to this. Would you agree?
No, I wouldn't say it's changed rather slow to it at all. I mean, over here, the rugby league rules are on a par with rugby union rules. If not, rugby league is a bit ahead. All of this is being led by the Rugby Football League, but the NRL are involved with it as well. Like Graeme Agars and people that have been up to date with the discussions, and the IRL, the International Rugby League, are also involved with it. They're also aware of it, but it is being led by the Rugby Football League over here, because essentially there is a threat of legal action over here, whereas with the NRL there isn't as yet. So That's why the NRL aren't implementing it as yet.
What has been the reaction to it from just league fans, pundits, commentators?
It's been a real dichotomy of opinions over here. You listen to some rugby league fans would say it's the death of the sport, but removing the shoulder charge was the death of the sport. The rugby league, if you believe some fans, rugby league's died 6 times already in the last 10 years.
Right.
But you listen to any of the coaches, the ex-players, the medical professionals, it's essentially something that's had to happen, because if the sport hadn't done this now, it would have probably died in 5 years when the legal case comes eventually, and they'll have been shown to have not mitigated any of the dangers. So the lawyers then will just pounce on the sport and say, well, you've not done this, you've not done that, you've not done the other. And it gives them a more convincing case, whereas what the sport's done now, it's mitigated the dangers to the point of, well, we've done all we can, basically.
In one of your Twitter comments, you quoted Dennis Betts as saying, and his name here is synonymous with the Warriors and their opening season, of course. Our dream is for the players that play rugby league to be able to remember it after they finished playing. I thought that was a really apt thing to say.
I thought that was the best comment, because Dennis actually sits on all these rules and recommendations have been brought forward by what's called the Brain Health Group. Now, Dennis sits on the Brain Health Group, which is advised the Rugby Football League. They've been working with coaches over here since March this year. So it's not something they've just thought up and just gone, right, well, this is what you need to do. We've thought of this last week. It's 8-9 months of work that's gone into it, including trials on lowering the tackle heights in the academy level here, which is the under-18s. They've got the data from that, and it's all backed up by scientific data. Dennis's comment about them needing to remember it, or our dream is for players to remember their careers, was really, really sort of rammed it home, I thought.
John Rahm took the money, went to LIV Golf. Even though he said he was never going to do that a year ago, he was saying he hated LIV Golf. Him and Rory McIlroy side by side, shoulder to shoulder. We will stand firm against the big boy with the biggest checkbook who wants to buy all the best players from the PGA Tour. Well, 600 million reasons later, Rahm has gone. What does it mean, though, for the tour next year? Will these two separate entities actually ever get together and create? Because remember when it used to be the NRL and then Super League, or it was the ARL and Super League, and they finally got together and said, hey, 2 competitions isn't really working. We need to actually combine. Is that going to happen as far as professional golf goes? Graeme Agars is our expert all over this. There's so many questions around this. Does it come down to the fact that, look, none of us can look each other in the eye, Graeme, and honestly say for $600 million, there's not a lot that we probably wouldn't turn our back on?
Well, in a way, it's the timing of it that counts. You know that I'm not a fan of LIV. I'm not a fan of 3 days, 3-round golf. I'm not a fan of having a tournament within a tournament, that is the team event within the singles event, because it compromises players without question. I mean, if a guy needs to make 2 birdies in the last 3 holes to get his team across the line, or he needs to par in to win the individual competition, he's not going to do the team thing. So already that's compromised. And anybody should be able to see that. But, LIV is hanging its hat on this thing and thinks the teams are going to be huge and they're going to be worth lots of money and sponsors will buy in and the guys are going to make all sorts of money at it, and they can continue with this sort of tournament within a tournament thing, and it just doesn't work. If you look at tennis, there are many occasions, going back a little bit, I guess, when the top players would play doubles until they got into the second week in singles, and then they'd say to their doubles partner, I'm sorry, I can't play, the singles is more important. And golf is in the same position. Golf is basically a singles game. That's what makes it. But the big problem that happened in all of this is the PGA Tour initially stood on its legacy and said, if you want to have a legacy in golf, if you want to be recognised as a great golfer, you play the PGA Tour, because that's what history is built on. That's what Ben Hogan played on. That's what Jack Nicklaus played on. That's what Arnold Palmer played on. And that's how they built their reputations, in addition to winning the majors. So all of that was a clear fight between LIV, this upstart with tons of money. So it was wealth, not legacy, and the PGA Tour was standing on legacy. And then, for some reason or other, probably because the legal costs were getting too high, the PGA Tour themselves started negotiating with the Saudis. And you remember that disastrous rollout the week of the Canadian Open, when Jay Monahan, the commissioner of the PGA Tour, was absolutely pilloried for his hypocrisy after, standing on the legacy bit, and then it suddenly went to the wealth bit. So it became a disaster from there on. And in the back of the players' minds, they're going, well, if it's good enough for the PGA Tour to negotiate with the Saudis, why isn't it good enough for us? And that's brought about the current problem.
What does it mean, though? And this is what we're all trying to get our heads around, because what I don't understand is I thought after they signed that deal in June that the two were coming back together and that what we'd see is some kind of a hybrid of LIV Golf and the PGA. I don't know who's going to own it or who's going to run it or whatever. But why do the Saudis need or still need him right now?
Because this is part of the power battle in the negotiations. I always thought that the LIV legacy argument, plus the fact that the American government wasn't particularly keen on the Saudis taking over or effectively taking over the PGA Tour, I thought that was a pretty strong leg to stand on. But as I said, once that broke down, it's now a negotiation. The PGA Tour is already talking to the Saudis. So the Saudis are thinking, well, we've got to get the best deal we possibly can. How can we put pressure on them? I know. Let's get the checkbook out and try and sign one of the top three. And John Rahm was the guy who was willing to go. And it's nothing to do with Rahm, will turn LIV around, and because he's now playing, everybody's going to watch LIV Golf. It's a message to the PGA Tour. Our checkbook is winning. When Jay Monahan and the leader of the Public Investment Fund from Saudi Arabia meet this week, that Rahm signing was a shot across the bow. What he's saying to Jay Monahan is, you better give us what we want in these negotiations, because money talks, and this is the latest evidence of it. If you want to lose all your players, I've got a checkbook big enough to gradually persuade them, or nearly all of them, to come across. So it was a negotiating tactic, and it surprised the PGA Tour because their understanding was, in the mid-year announcement, that the lawsuit was off and players wouldn't be poached until this agreement was finished. But the problem with that is the PGA Tour, in the interim, has been talking to other possible sponsors under pressure from the US government, partly. And the PIF people said, well, that's not how the agreement went. And if we're going to come back and talk to you guys about finalising this thing by December 31, you need to know we're still serious. So John Rahm is a shot across the bow to the PGA Tour, and boy, I'd love to be a fly on the wall in their meeting rooms now, because the pressure is really on.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full.
The Tide 5.
5 separate sporting topics then, roughly a minute or so on each. When the bell, we move on to the next topic. Super Rugby. It's all about fan engagement and being fan-centric now. Say the new Super Rugby board. Is it a little too late, mate? Rugby League and lowering that tackle height. It has to happen, does it not? It's just got to happen. But when is the NRL going to jump on board and align itself with rugby? Because you still see a hell of a lot of stuff in league which you don't see in rugby, which should never be allowed in rugby, and that class action is looming. Corey Anderson made the news. Corey Anderson. Remember the name. Can you remember anything about Corey Anderson? The Lakers have put up a banner for the in-season tournament.
Be nice.
At the Staples Centre. This is like celebrating Santa giving you a present at Christmas.
No, it's not. They actually won something.
Stop it, mate. Phil Moore is still denying that Eddie Jones is going to coach in Japan. He was interviewed by the mass media here yesterday, and he says, oh, look, it hasn't been made official yet. What else we got? Oh, yeah. The Super Smash Big Bash calamitous crash, whatever the hell it's called here in New Zealand, the T20 competition that nobody goes along to and nobody watches, is moving 3 of its games in January to Eden Park. Is that a good idea? Let's start with that because I don't believe it is. Now, look, the whole point...
Well, you've got something wrong right away, okay? People do go to these
but they go to it in little boutique grounds. That was the whole point.
Because it's never at Eden Park.
Well, they moved it out of Eden Park because nobody went. So they moved it. Look,
it's been a while since it was at Eden Park.
I did this project, and I wasn't allowed to put my name on it. I did a project with a mate of mine who, Tim Martin, actually, who began Premier League Pass and Rugby Pass. And he had a company called Coliseum. I don't know whether it's still going or not. But anyway, one of the first contracts that they got was with New Zealand Cricket. And they were trying to revitalise the T20 competition. And he got me involved. And he said, hey, look, how the hell do we do this? And I said, look, take it to boutique grounds. Put a bloody bouncy castle in. 4,000 or 5,000 people at Colin made it. All of a sudden, you got an atmosphere there. Make it, 2 to 3 hours where mum or dad can take the kids. The kids are all safe. They can run around. Because I had little kids at the time. I said, I'd go if I could take the kids. It's 3 hours of babysitting, effectively, right? You can have a couple of jars on the bank with your mates. Make it small. This is exactly what is happening with the NPC now. As Wellington are out of the Cape Town, right? They're gone out of the Cape Town. The Wellington Phoenix women are out of the Cape Town. And you'll find that a hell of a lot of New Zealand sports, that outdoor sports, summer sports, rugby sports, winter sports are doing this because Eden Park is just a big concrete cavern. The Cape Town and Wellington is terrible with nobody. And these stadiums, they do nothing to enhance the quality of your experience at all. And especially with cricket. Eden Park's terrible to go and watch cricket at.
Yeah, it is.
It's an awful place to go and watch cricket. So why are you bringing 3 matches back there?
What was the reasoning? Do they give reasons?
No, they're just doing it because they're doing it. They are doing it because they're doing it.
They're doing a Super Rugby with
They're doing a Super Rugby because it's
engagement.
about the fan engagement, fan-centric experience, Lachlan.
Damn it, when you search Super Smash, it comes up with Mario Brothers.
Oh, God, what a dumb idea. Look, you were starting to gain some momentum, New Zealand cricket.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, to be honest. There's got to be a reason for it. Maybe the outer oval. I'm trying to find an article. I can't find it.
The whole point is to keep it small, keep it boutique, let it build organically. Super Rugby and the fan engagement that's going on, and the new Super Rugby board. Creative new energies, exciting new technologies, and innovative marketing opportunities. Those are 3 direct quotes from Silver Lake when they signed the deal. That's what they were bringing to New Zealand Rugby. Now, I applaud those in charge who are fully responsible for where Super Rugby is at the moment, which is a dead and dying duck of a competition, for finally getting it and finally saying these things to us as fans that we have been wanting you to say for 10 years. Will it make any difference? See, they're advertising for a CEO at the moment, and this is where it's all going to fall down. I would hope that they would hire the best person for the job. But you know that they won't. You know they're going to hire somebody who worked for Saatchi and Saatchi or who's got a breast and penis, and you know that they're going to tick a rainbow box. And,
Some 32-year-old who's been part of 17 startups.
You know that this is going to happen.
Matcha-infused coffee in the mornings.
So, look, convince me otherwise. Again, I applaud the fact that you're actually saying these things, but... watching the same people who have watched this competition die, who are now going to be in charge of revitalising and the revive, I have much confidence in that as I do the TMO shutting up and butting out, you twat. So I don't think anything is actually going to change. The problem with Super Rugby is really simple. It's just a crap competition at the moment. That's what it is. I can tell you right now, as can everyone else who knows anything about it. Who are the top 4 teams next year in Super Rugby, Lachlan? Tell me. How many of them are New Zealand teams?
3 or 4.
There you go. And the other 4th team is going to be the Brumbies.
Yeah.
And the team that misses out in New Zealand is called the Highlanders.
And one Pacific.
Yeah, I mean, so look, the Australian teams are rubbish. You got 5 of them, and you don't have enough players. I mean, look, they're saying that, hey, we've got the ball in motion and tries have been scored and all of these positive things. Yeah, they're true. But you've still got...
Well, I mean, the ball is in motion and tries being scored when Dad and his brothers are taking on the kids in backyard footy and killing them. That's entertaining to an extent. That's what the Blues versus the Rebels is at Eden Park on an empty Friday afternoon.
You've still got the problem of... every week when you look at the draw and you compare it to the NRL, where there are 6 or 7 games worth watching, there might be one Super Rugby game worth watching.
There's a number of issues, to be fair, and not all of them are directly New Zealand Rugby's and in turn what will become the Super Rugby boards if and when it gets formed, and the CEO, whoever that ends up being.
It's a woman. You know already it's a woman,
it's not exactly a woman, but it's someone who's probably not the most qualified. I think that's fair to say.
You know it's not a white guy. That's first and foremost, let's say that it won't be. It won't be.
I'd love it if it was one of the... You
can't hire a white guy because that's just patriarchy gone mad again.
Hire the NZR board member who thought it was too hard to watch the All Blacks last year.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, he'd be perfect for it.
But part of the issue is obviously the spread of talent, and that's something that needs to change. And maybe the new Super Rugby board can actually change that. And another thing is that'll help the competition actually get it a bit more engaging. But one of the problems they'll never fix is the fact that they kicked out the South African teams and thought they could do it on their own. Yeah. And then they started these 2 other franchises. The Fijian and Drua are going very well. Moana Pacific are not going that well at all, to be honest.
But I still applaud the fact that they were in the competition because we're in the Pacific.
Yeah, but are they being treated the way they should be?
No, they aren't.
Are they being given the opportunities they should be? I mean, we had to text him before. When Levi Moore was able to go sign for the Crusaders, you're sitting there going, what's the point of Moana Pacifica then?
So good luck, Super Rugby. I wish you well. I really do. But I don't think
but seriously, if they allow players to go to, like if they allow Kiwi players to go play for the Australian teams.
Why wouldn't you, mate?
And you spread the talent, because the NRL's good, because and I was saying this time, I caught up with a mate on Saturday, we'll talk about the NRL, we were both saying we can't actually wait till it starts.
I can't either, mate. I miss it like hell.
15 teams out of the 17 all have a legitimate shot at making the finals. The 2 would be the Dragons and the Tigers,
you know what
who
they should do with Super Rugby? Here's an idea for free for you. All of the New Zealand players that don't make our franchises, make them all available for Australia. All of those supposedly
make everyone available. If Rico Ioane wants to go play for the Western Force, let him.
Let him go.
Yeah. Do that.
Okay, it's not a bad idea. Rugby League lowering the tackle height. It has to happen, doesn't it? It's got to happen. Look, the thing is that it's the only thing I don't like about watching Rugby League is what happens on the field in terms of, players getting smacked in the head, arms across the head, hits to the chin, face, Hargraves doing what he does, all of that being put on report. The concussion. I cringe at a lot of stuff that goes on now in rugby league, which if that was rugby, it's been outlawed already. And I just wonder how long this game can continue without actually doing something absolutely definitive about it. And obviously from England, they are doing this. It's the only thing I don't like about the game. It's not going to wreck the game, Lachlan, because, as both Brad and Gary said to us, you've got this sport where shoulder charging, right? No arms tackles all of a sudden got banned. Swinging arms got banned. Fighting on the field and throwing punches got banned. It hasn't made league any less exciting. In actual fact, the product now is better than it's ever been. It's a brilliant game to watch. But they've just got to cut out, the so many incidents where guys get smacked across the chops.
Yeah, a lot of it is similar to rugby in its issue where it tends to be accidental, and you've got to find a way to try and... the danger that league has is going down the route of rugby that there are accidental head clashes or head knocks or accidental high tackles that really can't be prevented in real time, and yet they still get punished for it, which is a bit unfair, but that's another issue for them to take on if and when that happens. But look, part of league's issue, and this is off-field as much as on-field, but in this case it's relevant to being on-field, is the buff-headedness of some of the players that are probably still going to try and, like we talked about Jared Warrior-Hargreaves, we talk about that as an issue. That wasn't a tackle. That was him running out of the line, targeting a player. There's a lot of that stuff that still goes on in league, and it stains the sport as far as I'm concerned.
I totally agree.
And this doesn't get rid of that, does it?
The Lakers are putting up a banner for the in-season tournament alongside all their other banners. Are you happy with this?
Well, look, I think every franchise bar one, well really bar two it should be, but every franchise bar one probably would have put a banner up or put something up that recognises the fact they won the tournament. The one franchise that wouldn't have is the Boston Celtics, okay? And I would like to think the Lakers would do the same. But because we're in LA, we're showtime, we're party, fun.
Stop it, mate.
Glitz and glamour, we want to show this.
This is the equivalent of Stuff's headline about the Black Fern 7 celebrating a bronze.
This is the equivalent of Man City winning the League Cup or the FA Cup. This is an FA Cup. It's a tournament that goes on between the teams in the league during the season, and it's a knockout tournament. It's an FA Cup.
Okay, too quick to go. Phil Waugh. How do we explain this nicely? Eddie Jones, mate, is going to Japan, Phil. And despite the fact you backed him to the hilt like your mate Hamish McFlynn and you're embarrassed about it, just accept it, dude. He was trying to deny it yesterday, saying, well, it hasn't officially happened yet. Phil, he's going to Japan.
Well, he's not wrong.
Phil, he's going,
It
mate.
hasn't officially happened.
Phil, he's going, mate.
Well, you know
she left you. She cheated on you, mate.
You know what?
Move
You know
on.
what he should be doing? Just don't answer the question. So I don't want to talk about it. He's gone. I'm not interested in talking about the subject.
Corey Anderson, did you know he was even playing? There's a headline today in the
I knew
news.
he was in Major League Cricket.
Well, he's in the Big Bash.
What? See, when you retire in cricket, you don't really retire, do you?
No.
Like Jacques Kallis is still playing.
No, mate, you just go around the world playing these goof tournaments, right? And the Big Bash is meant to be one of the better of the T20s.
And then everyone
Corey
hated
Anderson, let me just give you a bit of history here. He came to prominence when he hit the fastest one-day century in the world, which had been held by Afridi for 17 years. Then he broke that. Afridi hit a century in 36 balls. He hit 37 balls. He hit one in 36 against the West Indies. When was it?
2011.
2014.
Oh, that was the first year of my head.
2014. It was 10 years ago, and he was mad.
Yeah, because he was at the World Cup in 2015.
I'd completely forgotten that he even...
Everyone talked about him as a really good batsman.
He was going to be the next big thing. Terry McFlynn is the Director of Football for the brand new A-League franchise. We welcomed Terry onto the program today. How's it all going as far as recruitment? Who's the coach going to be? What kind of players are you going to get? Are they going to be local players? Is it going to be a development like Academy the Phoenix have? All of these questions, exactly what the team is going to be called. They even know that yet. So many questions to put to our man, Terry McFlynn. This is exciting news. This is and when Bill Foley appeared in Auckland just a few weeks back, full of vim and vigour and enthusiasm about this club starting. And you're his first appointment, or one of his first appointments, called the Director of Football. So what is that role actually defined as? What do you do?
Yeah, look, it's obviously a new club that's coming into the A-League, and like you said, it's a very exciting time for everyone involved with the club and in football in general. When I spoke to Bill about the role and his vision for the club and football in New Zealand as a whole, I was very excited by his passion and his enthusiasm for building something from the ground. So, yeah, look, it's basically the football department overseeing everything from the A-League men's, A-League women's academy down the track, staffing structure. So, yeah, there's a lot to get done in a short space of time, but with a lot of good people in and around the organisation at the minute, we're all pulling in the same direction.
How many full-time employees are working there at the moment?
At the minute, there's 3.
Okay.
But I think with Bill's, obviously, the multi-club ownership that Bill oversees and has got control of, there's a lot of resources in the background that's helping at the minute with football department, sports science, etc. So we're tapping into all the resources globally at the minute that Bill has given us access to.
Terry, when's your deadline for things like announcing a coach?
Look, we're fast-tracking a lot of stuff. So we've conducted coach interviews over the last week. We'll finish off. We've got 1 today, 2 tomorrow, and then we'll present a preferred candidate to Bill later in the week and make a decision. Hopefully we can have that in place before Christmas. January 1's obviously a drop-dead deadline for us in terms of when we can and can't speak to players. So obviously, as a player, you want to know who the coach is, you want to know what the vision of the club is, what the direction it's going. So for us, it's very important to have a coach in place to begin those conversations with the players and start the recruitment process from January 1.
How many New Zealanders have you interviewed for the job?
I think off the top of my head, 4 or 5 with another couple to go.
All right. Is it important to you that a New Zealand man coaches this team?
I think, and Bill's been very vocal in saying this, that he wants to win. I think it's very important that we have a New Zealand flavour to the whole club, right across the coaching department, the playing staff, everything. But the remit that we've been given is to get the best people possible to bring success to Auckland, and also people that want to connect with the community and get on the journey with us and really get behind the team. So by all means, we will definitely be, if it's not the immediacy in terms of New Zealand coaches, we'll definitely be succession planning for the future to have a full New Zealand team and staff down the track.
So it's more important, though, as far as this franchise is concerned, is to get it up, to get it running, to get it winning straight away.
Yes, winning in the correct way, with a long-term sustainable succession plan to have a New Zealand team on and off the park. So Bill's obviously had a lot of success, in particular with his ice hockey team in Vegas.
Yes.
So that's one of the key things that he said himself in his interviews, was that really connected the community, and that's one thing that we'll be pushing hard and working with Football New Zealand, working with the clubs in and around Auckland in terms of genuine pathways, not only into the A-League, but as I said before, Bill's got the multi-club ownership structure with pathways into 3 to 4 clubs in Europe, which is a great opportunity for all New Zealand players.
Terry McFlynn is with us, Director of Football for the new A-League side. Do we know what the name is yet?
No, we don't. And that's it's something that's very exciting. Obviously, people within the organisation are working hard on that in the background. So I'm not actually I don't actually know the name of the team myself. So I'm excited for that one, the same as everyone else.
What about the colours? What the team's going to wear?
No, that hasn't been discussed yet either. We had a discussion last week where we're sort of sitting in the timeline of piecing everything together. So that was very high on the agenda, obviously from a football department point of view, kit, equipment, footballs, etc., that you need to start a football club from scratch. It's not easy. There's a lot to get done. So that's definitely very high on the list as well.
How do you make money, or is that not your department? Because there's no A-League clubs that make money, and the league loses money. So I know that's a consideration for the owner, of course. But does that affect you, or how does that affect you?
Oh, look, at the end of the day, we all know it's a business. So there's multiple revenue streams across the business, from sponsorships, commercial activities, corporate engagement, player sales. So that there's definitely revenue streams across the business. And yeah, I think the more success you have, both on and off the park, there's more opportunity to become commercially viable and sustainable for a longer term.
Terry, were you at Mount Smart a couple of weeks ago when the Phoenix did their double header?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't across for that one.
I'm only raising this because I've been around in Auckland long enough when we had the Football Kings and then we had the Football Knights, and that was a great promotion that the Phoenix came up and staged both the men's and women's playing that double header. There's only 5,000 paying spectators, which is a real worry. When you look at the Phoenix men's side, they might get 5,000 or 6,000 there in Wellington. The women get about 1,500 or something like that. They're not huge crowds. I know Auckland's got a big population, but it's got a massive football following here. Trying to coordinate all the clubs, so the people from those clubs and the petty rivalries and things like that. Have you talked about that, and how do you go about that? Because if you get 4,000 or 5,000, it's going to look inside that stadium very empty indeed.
Yeah, look, we have discussed that, how we're going to engage with the community and be present and be seen in the community, and not just be a football club within the community, but also be something that is an extension of the people's lifestyle. So we want to help around the community as much as we can in terms of other aspects, whether that be coaching, education, whatever it may be. I think it's very important. In the early days at Sydney FC, we were getting 25,000, 30,000 people to games, and as a player back then in those days, we did a lot of community engagement with local clubs, coaching clinics, hospitals, schools, anything where we could be present in the community and trying to make a difference. So I think that's something that's very, very important for us as a football club, and certainly from the owner that has been driven very hard, that we really need to connect with the community and make sure that the people's on the journey with us.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. ATM, apologise to me, episode 65 today. Mark Watson on board. So many topics to cover with Watto. You can hear the full interview via Platform Plus or on our YouTube platform channel. Fan engagement, fan-centric Super Rugby knows that it has lost so many that used to love this particular competition. I don't know whether or not it's too little too late, but it certainly is about bloody time, mate. Watto's all over it. Super Rugby have finally decided that, I quote, "We want to reignite the flame with fans, and we're desperate to make the game fan-centric." There's a Super Rugby board now independent of both the Australian and New Zealand administrations. They're looking to appoint a CEO. And after 10 years of being told by us fans that the product is dull, it is boring, it is going nowhere, seeing crowds drop through the turnstiles, TV ratings fall through the floor, at last they're doing something about it. Is this good news?
Yeah, I think I said last week, Martin, my opening statement, wouldn't it just be nice if actually New Zealand Rugby or someone came out and actually just admitted the game was in crisis, and finally we've seen it. Look, I've been one that's been saying it for a long time, and you have too, and sometimes we've copped it. No, you don't know what you're talking about, but the reality is it's not the competition it once was. And I mean, I don't think you'd be as concerned if you had a healthy NPC and a healthy club competition, but they've gone by, haven't they? And and as I've said, really what has happened is that we've reduced rugby just to the All Blacks. And you've often heard me say, look, we've moved from being rugby fans to All Black fans. Look, yeah, fan engagement is a big one, isn't it? And they've just never really quite got it in this country. And I think they can talk all they want. I just wonder whether the horse has already bolted. I'm just not sure how you're going to pull it back next year. We've already talked about the number of high-profile All Blacks that are not going to be available. The Australians are not going to be any better. Yes, it's a nice, lovely little token gesture with Moana Pacifica and the Fijian Drua, but I think Fiji, to be fair, are very tough at home. But, Pacifica, that's going to, they're going to need to actually start being competitive. As I said, I've over the last few years applied for the odd media job within these rugby organisations with a clear vision, I think, of what needs to happen, again, based along the lines of what I see in English Premier League. And then, you don't get a call back, or you don't get even an interview or an opportunity, and then they appoint these people. And, and I know, Martin, it's very, very hard at times to get players on radio shows, to get them to front up. There's always some reason why they can't. It's all just a little bit too tough, yet no one's turning up. The other thing that needs to happen is, New Zealand Rugby need to let Sky Television off the leash and their broadcasting partners, and actually allowed to criticise the game, critique the game, have the hard discussions, talk about the administration, get people animated, get people talking about what they saw last night around the water cooler, and just get rugby back at the forefront of people's minds.
Totally
and go back to the days of the debates of Laurie Mains versus John Hart, and try and get this tribalism going between the village of the damned, as your good mate Miles Davis calls it, Christchurch, up against Auckland, and just try and find a way of getting that tribalism back. But I just wonder, mate, if it's too late. I just wonder whether we've just got into new habits, Martin, and apathy has got to the point where really, I just don't know if there is a way back here.
Look, it's got to achieve it organically like the Warriors did. There's got to be an up the wires kind of movement. And if you leave it to New Zealand Rugby after you see what they've done with NZR Plus, exciting new technologies, creative new opportunities, and marketing energy, it's all just PR schmuck. And if that's what they think is fan engagement, well, it's actually not, because it's just a pile of cheese with mozzarella on top and then more parmesan. If they want to promote this game like it's a women's weekly cover, then nothing is going to change. Look, they're looking for a CEO at the moment, Mark, and what I fear is just in all of their wokeness and liberalism and KPI box ticking, that it's going to be a man with boobs and a penis, and they are going to do that. And I'm being facetious, but it is going to be, are they going to appoint even the right person for that job with the right qualifications? Who is the best person for the job? Or are they going to go super woke again and actually tick another rainbow box? And so unless they can get their heads out of their backside and actually recognise that, hey, this is the kind of discussion that sports fans have. I hate my Manchester United at the moment. I hate my Redskins at the moment. I should be allowed to hate them as much as I love them. They have to accept that this is what they're going to hear. A lot of stuff. They're going to see a lot of stuff that will make them feel uncomfortable, because it's not cheesy promotion of their sport. But what it actually is promotion of their sport. And if they can understand that, the most basic concept, then I have some faith. But I don't actually believe that they will. All I believe is that you'll get a lot of lip service, you'll get a lot of PR statements, you'll get a lot more of what we've already come to see, which is just simply that, hey, here's a PR opportunity for the Blues. Jump on board a bus as we go and hand out Christmas presents. That's not in fan engagement or being fan-centric.
No, it's not. And as I said, it's just a PowerPoint presentation, isn't it? It looks good, and they'll get some former marketing guru from some advertising agency who will come in who, probably just has never been to a game, never really understands club rugby. He's got no passion for schoolboy rugby, but will look great, wonderful CV, interview well, take the big salary, and, then along with Sky, put out some numbers to somehow justify that, in fact, things are working. The engagement curve is on the way up. Yeah, exactly. And the spin that goes on. But look, you go back to the English Premier League, you talk about your disgust, but yet your love for Manchester United at the moment. Look, I see, Pep Guardiola came out and had a crack at the Sky pundits and talked about Jamie Carragher. Well, he never won a Premier League title, and Jamie Carragher hit straight back and said, well, I would have if our club had 115 financial infringements and were basically backed by an entire country. Now, it's a big story, but isn't that great? Isn't that just a high level of engagement? Then at the same time, you've got Mo Salah scoring his 200th goal for Liverpool, so you're celebrating a milestone of a great player. And I'm only talking through Liverpool eyes. And then you've got, you've got the injury crisis, you've got the transfer window, you're celebrating some wonderful football, you're celebrating the fact that Bournemouth did beat Manchester United 3-0. Who would have ever have thought? And my point is, again, look at the level of engagement, look at the discussion going on, the negative, the bad. This is where rugby needs to get to. But can you honestly see it happening, mate? We'll get the same cliche coaches next year. We've got
players
respect
won't
for the
turn
opposition.
up because it's their day off. That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do though is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
You better believe it!
The Platform.